Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, viewers. Thank you for joining me today for this webinar, Rise Filipinas, Transforming Education for All Filipinos, a Microsoft Education Virtual Summit. This is the educator track, and it is my pleasure to talk about the conversation today about rising to the challenge in supporting educators and staff to become change makers and create a new learning experience that is accessible for learners. My name is Amit Pawar. I'm a solution specialist with Microsoft Education Asia Pacific based out of Singapore, and I have the pleasure to work with many education institutions across Asia Pacific and across the world to help transform education. In today's conversation, we're going to quickly run through the strategy and the overall kind of approach towards transforming education from the Microsoft perspective and see how we can help you address some of the teaching and learning challenges that you are grappling with on a day-to-day basis. So we recognize that teachers face numerous obstacles, from competing priorities to curriculum mandates and lack of time. We know based on research that 30% of teachers who are highly motivated to personalize their lessons, they don't think they have the time, they don't think they have the resources or the tools to enable that to be made possible. That's because today they are hampered down by legacy technologies and administrative tasks that limits this ability for them to maximize their time. And what we believe is leveraging productivity tools, we can definitely help you gain more of that time, which helps you then improve the teaching and learning outcomes for our students. So we fundamentally believe that empowering the teachers and students with modernized classrooms is one of the ways that we can enhance the educational outcomes. It's not the only way. We fundamentally still believe that the teacher is in control and should be the one facilitating the conversation. The modern classroom technologies enables the teachers to get more time towards more personalized instruction, which has higher impact. Create opportunities in terms of for the students to express themselves emotionally and develop those cognitive skills, right? Foster this whole personalized, immersive, collaborative, and accessible learning. And in today's session, we'll talk a little bit more about the immersive collaboration and the accessible learning that has been made possible by technology, which is making it possible for everyone to participate. So again, there is research here, and the research information is in the document that will be shared with you later on. We know based on this research that students who receive personalized instruction perform better than 98% of the traditionally taught students. So it's no longer about the rote learning. The other thing is we also, based on other research, that primary schools that have embraced these modern classroom technologies see better up to 30% increase in competency scores. So there is a direct correlation, not just academically, but also from a overall growth of the student perspective, that we've seen benefits of this. And increasingly students are participating in a digital economy. So having these skills as part of their teaching and learning experience will grow them into future ready and work ready citizens of Philippines. I just wanted to ground you on some basic fundamentals from a Microsoft perspective. We are deeply committed to helping educators and students succeed. This starts with free Office 365 with email, video conferencing, a digital hub, which is Microsoft Teams, that fosters classroom collaboration. All of these things are built into the platform. And I also want to make sure that if you are coming from a background where you're aware of other platforms that do similar things, there are differentiated value propositions here as well. For example, Minecraft Education Edition, that's been used in many countries across the world to offer lesson plans in a more immersive, three-dimensional world where students get to explore and learn and collaborate with each other. There are educators across 75 countries that are using the Hacking STEM lesson plans, which we provide for free in terms of lesson plans to enable you to leverage tools like Microsoft Excel to teach STEM-related topics. And the investments are huge from Microsoft in terms of the actual number of engineers who are building technologies for us, the number of programs. There are many programs that you may be already familiar with, like Microsoft Educator Center, where you can become a Microsoft innovative educator, are some of the examples of education programs where we host, and collaborate with educators across the world. And we also participate and partner with many nonprofit organizations who are committed to enhancing teaching and learning. There is obviously, from a philanthropy perspective, a lot of work that's been going on. We've been donating a lot of software and services to many nonprofit organizations to help increase the access to technology, because fundamentally, and we get asked this a lot through webinars, what happens when I don't have access to the internet? What happens to when I don't have a device? We want to make sure that those things become more and more affordable, and that we have increased access to these technologies, so we no longer create this divide between the ones who have access to technology and ones who don't. And as our CEO here says, the pathway to new technologies requires a parallel investment in skills development as well. So there's a lot of focus on that from thought leadership here. We are creating the ability for our educators to understand what it takes to create content that fosters 21st century skills. And there is a whole bunch of resources that we make available to empower our educators to help you understand what it takes to teach with technology. And there is content available on the Microsoft Educator Center that I'll show you later on that talks to the 21st century skills. We've done a lot of work to also get insights from educators like you in terms of what the class of 2030, so 10 years from now, what are the skills, what are the how do we prepare students to participate in the economies of 2030 in a global world. Education transformation framework is the other aspect of this, which is really the underpinnings of the way Microsoft is approaching and learning from over 130 thought leaders across the world on how to apply technology in education. So there is a holistic commitment from Microsoft. So we really appreciate you taking the time today to go through this webinar to understand more about what we do. And fundamentally, let's ground us on the reality is what we're trying to do here is enhance student learning through the modern classroom. And to do that, Microsoft is also bringing together not just our technologies, but also our partner technologies. And the way we are going about this, the approach we want to take here is the end goal really that we are starting with in mind is we want to enhance the outcomes for students by creating a student-centered learning where we are enabling more group collaboration, like you see here in the graphic, where we are enabling the participation in the classroom. So we are creating more immersive experiences in the classroom so that we can use the tools in real time to collaborate and create group work. Again, as you can see in the graphic, we also want to make sure that we are inclusive. So for people with different needs, with both physical disabilities as well as the non-visible disabilities that we need to enable. The other thing is we want to foster this ability for people to collaborate, which then sparks creativity through the use of these technologies, right? And these technologies are built specifically for education. It's not been a afterthought that it's a bolt-on or we try to squeeze a technology into the education scenario. So I'll demonstrate some of that through this webinar. And so how do we do that? To put the needs of the learners first and foremost, we need to create that inclusive classroom. And to make that possible, we have created a platform for you. And the platform here really aims to maximize your classroom efficiency by putting all the resources in one place. Because when I go to a lot of schools that are leveraging technology in the classroom, there's a lot of tools that have been brought along because a teacher learns about a tool when they go to a webinar like the one you're doing today, or you've gone to another event in the past where you saw a teacher demonstrate a particular tool. So there are lots of these pockets of tools that have emerged into education. However, we fundamentally believe at Microsoft to bring those experiences together into one centralized place. So that's a digital hub that can grow with you, and that's Microsoft Teams that enables this collaboration to happen and enable you to create the experiences you want. And the other thing is to make sure that we hear from everybody in the classroom. So it becomes a very inclusive environment. There are examples of this, and I won't go through all the examples, just putting the slide up for your reference so that you know how other schools are using this. So here's an example of Fresno Unified School District in the United States that have leveraged our tools to make this possible. And so let's think about what do we do to start with. We can get more of our time back because we want to make sure that we have the ability to leverage powerful suite of tools, in one place. So that's through the Office 365, the Teams and Windows 10 devices that make it possible for you to have a more accessible experience. And I'll show you demonstrations of this later in this presentation, but I just wanted to give you a grounding on how we are approaching this whole strategy for the modern classroom. Again, another example, we've got Catholic Education Western Australia that's been enabling equity of access by making sure that every student has an equal opportunity to learn and become successful. And they are doing that leveraging the Office 365 platform. There are videos available on the Catholic Education Western Australia case study on YouTube, and there are links in this document that we'll be providing you at the end of this as well. So you can learn and model from how other educators in other parts of the world are doing this, even when they are remote. So for example, in Catholic Education Western Australia, students are spread across a huge landmass, which is Australia, and we still want to make sure that they are able to collaborate, and also want to make sure that the schools have a unified operations experience as well. So not just enabling the educators, but also the school leaders to streamline their work processes, because a lot of the overhead teachers have to deal with is because of the overhead of the processes, and the tools don't support those processes today. So unifying those operations under one suite of tools can also help there. The other area to be very cognizant of is that beyond just creating a modern classroom, we want to spark creativity, right? We want to unlock that limitless learning, and that can be done through, we want to have simplified setup of devices. We want to make sure that the students have access to the data they need, the curriculum that they are getting through. They should have the resources to help and support their learning to for that curriculum. And that comes in the form of Office 365, Teams, and Windows. So you'll see there's a recurring theme here that the platform is what's enabling the collaboration, and the tools are built into the platform, and we can integrate third-party tools into this as well. Another example of this, we've got schools in Seattle, the ODA high school, which has gone through and deployed devices in a very fast manner, leveraging school data sync and making sure that all the users are in the right teams at the start of the year. So you don't have to make all the administrative work of getting people into the right group so that they can start collaborating is done automatically for you. If your IT team is more interested in this, they should go and check out School Data Sync as a means to create teams automatically. And based on that, obviously once we start getting them together, we can start collaborating, and this gives us flexibility because the teachers can now start making changes on the fly to make sure that the needs of the students are front and center. Students can basically turn in assignments electronically, which also eliminates lost paper and lost knowledge, because they're no longer having to worry about the logistics of managing the content. They're now having access to that regardless of which device they're on, and that's possible through the collaborating platform. And to enable this, of course, a lot of times we get asked, how do I make this possible? So professional development is a huge focus for us, and that's done through the Microsoft Educator Center. That's a online, a free online, I suppose, service and a platform for you to go and get lesson plan. To get courses and workshops on how to use our technology in the context of education, but also how to develop your own content, leveraging all of these different tools. So it's not just about learning the usage of the technology, but rather the application of the technology in the context of education. Other areas we also focus on, and we know the team in Microsoft Philippines is very focused on giving you access to workshops that they conduct on a regular basis, like we are doing today with this webinar, where we want to make sure that, when possible, do this face to face. When it's not, as we're going through the COVID situation, to do them online, so that we can still maintain connection with our educator community and learn from you as to what's required and help you understand all the new offerings from Microsoft as well. So schools have really seen some very powerful solutions coming out of this, and I just want to give you a bit of a summary on this. We've seen improvements of up to 20% improvement in the reading and writing, and I'll show you a demo of the immersive reading tools that really have changed the lives of many students and educators. We want to also save time, because, as we said, we no longer want the educators to be bogged down with the day-to-day grind and the logistics of having to manage things through the traditional tools. So we want to make that a much easier process. There are examples and there are studies that have been done that show that we've been able to give back 100 hours back, almost 100 hours back. I've got examples in other countries like Malaysia where schools have told us we are saving them 6 to 7 hours a week during their teaching weeks to really focus back on the content creation and personalization of learning, rather than on the day-to-day mundane tasks that, using paper, have been very arduous. So we want to help you with that, and I'll give you some examples of that later in the demo as well. And of course, from an IT perspective, we want to make sure that we lower the cost of acquiring the technology, but also, just as importantly, lower the cost of maintaining the technology, that it is reliable and secure and something that we can use with all of our security and privacy concerns in mind. So we really want to partner with you to modernize your classroom. So we want to build those connected experiences on our platforms. It's an extensible platform, so it's not about just what Microsoft gives you out of the box, but also something that you can enhance yourself if you have development capabilities for software. If not, you work with third-party independent software vendors who also can enhance the platform and extend it. We want to optimize the institutional efficiency using technology so that we can automate the workflow and delivery of data and provide some actionable insights. And I'll show you some demos of that as well. So personalized accommodation to build technologies that make it more accessible. So I think, overall, our focus is to make sure that experience in the classroom is a differentiated one, is something better than what our generation, in the previous generation, has experienced. So moving forward, we create a transformed education experience. And to put this into a visual, just think about this. The platform and the conversation I've been having with you is grounded on the accessibility to technology using those devices that our device ecosystem creates. So we obviously have first-party devices from Microsoft Surface, but our great ecosystem of partners who create really affordable devices, partners like Asus, Toshiba, Samsung, Lenovo, HP, Fujitsu, Acer, Dell, and many more. There are very many more who are specifically in your country. So I'm aware of device vendors in country, in Philippines, who are also doing great work to create affordable education-focused devices. So I encourage you to talk to those folks, both from Microsoft and from your partner ecosystem in Philippines, to understand the type of devices you can use here. And these devices obviously are powered by Windows 10, where it enables everyone to participate, and accommodates for disabilities and personal preferences by the type of device, whether it's a desktop or all-in-one, a two-in-one, a laptop, notebook, or tablets, or what have you. The different form factors are available to make it possible. Office 365, as I said, is the key platform that enables this to create those immersive experiences. And if you have applications that you have built today and are using in your school or school systems, we can both improve the reliability and the accessibility to this, leveraging the Azure platform. And if you're a developer of apps and you're joining us today, of course, Azure is a great platform for you to develop your apps and leverage the comprehensive Azure cloud services that let you do that. And lastly, I just want to touch on this. Power Platform is a new addition to our platform story. It's been around for the last two or so years. And this really enables you to create applications with low or no code point and click approach. So that really changes the way we are developing applications. So you no longer have to be super familiar with the syntax of a particular language. You can actually start creating apps just like you would start creating PowerPoints without having to know the intricacies of the back end of PowerPoint. It's more of a point and click sort of environment to create your app. So I encourage you to look a little bit into Power Platform as well. And there is a huge ecosystem of partners. There are LMS providers, there are solution providers like Kahoot, and there are content providers and many others who are integrating with us, like Action Tech, to enable this agility of classroom in classroom and going forward, where we are not going to be able to physically be in contact with each other's devices. Having the ability to wirelessly display your content is a great example of how Action Take is adding value to the modern classroom experience. So I hope in the last few minutes, I've given you an idea of what Microsoft is doing, but I just wanted to focus a little bit more about what we want to do in terms of inclusion. So in this next section, I'm going to go a deep dive a little bit more into the education inclusion. But before we get into the inclusion side, I just want to ground us on what is our platform that we are looking at. So I'm going to jump out of the PowerPoint presentation for a minute and go towards what we're doing in terms of the platform itself. And this is the platform you see, which is Office 365. And if you're new to Office 365, I just want to make sure that you're also grounded on some other fundamentals here, which is Office 365 for education is free. I know when we talk to a lot of education customers, they are aware of other offerings from other organizations like Google and others who are focused on also giving you an education experience. So I just want to make sure that we are also aware that Microsoft 365 in the cloud is free, where you get email in the cloud, 50 gigabytes of email, unlimited storage on OneDrive, the ability to use the familiar tools like Word, Excel, PowerPoint in the in the cloud through your browser. And of course, we are now enabling new experiences through Teams, Class Notebook, Sway, Forms, Stream, and others that really are enhancing the way that education can start. The only thing you're not going to get for free is the ability to download and install Office apps onto your PC or Mac. You will be able to install your apps for free on your Android iOS device. However, to get the full desktop suite, that is a paid offering. But in today's conversation, I'm not going to get into the free versus paid, but just suffice to say, to get started, you can start accessing all of these tools like Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, all through the browser and all for free. And we'll go through some of these examples in a minute. Just as a quick run through to ground you on the experience of what it looks like from a school perspective, a lot of what we're focused on and bringing those digital experiences together is through a new tool which has been now around for the last 3 years, which is Teams, and Teams for education specifically. So let me quickly bring that up for you. Teams for education looks like this when you typically go to a page that has been created for you by you joining Teams or you creating Teams. You will be presented a view like this where you have access to all of your teams. And the idea behind Teams is to make sure that this is the hub for all of your chat, all of your assignments, all of your calendars, and the ability for you to conduct online classes or remote learning through audio and video conferencing, leveraging Teams. And of course, access to your files as well in one place. So, and as you can see here with the ... and a pro tip here, anytime you see a ... in any Microsoft tool, I would suggest you should click on it because that gives you access to the enhanced capabilities. And for example, even within the any of these teams, if you want to understand more about the team, I would click on the ... I get asked a lot about why do we have these dots everywhere. That's the reason why. So just as a kind of a tip while we are navigating through this Microsoft Teams for education. So I just want to go through a quick example. So for example, let's just go into this course here where we've been able to now participate in the conversation for this particular course, which is let me actually choose another. Yeah, here we go. So here's a physical science course that I'm enrolled into. And what you'll see here is when you log in Teams, you get presented with the ability for you to have a conversation. And these conversations are just like any social media. So we want to be able to go and participate in the conversations that have happened previously as well. So that's a great way for us to keep tabs of all the conversations that have been had here. We can also obviously have one-on-one conversations if we wish to have that. I can, in this case, if I wanted to talk to Kara, I could easily do that one-on-one. And so it really, creates for a group work environment where we can collaborate and communicate with each other. And of course, we can also create breakout teams, right? Or breakout rooms where we can have smaller groups of people communicate with each other on specific topics. So that's a great enabler for us. Of course, Teams also enables us to bring our files together. Because this is not a deep dive into Teams today, I will not go through all the details. Just want to give you an overview on these things. Class Notebook is a very key enabler for a very education-focused experience where students want to be able to take their content with them. And Class Notebook, I get asked a lot about, hey, what do I do when I don't have access to the internet a lot? Or it's intermittent access to the internet. Class Notebook is the answer to a lot of those questions because we have the ability to take this Class Notebook and open it in the browser, but also take it offline by opening it in an app. That makes it possible for us to have this whole Class Notebook with us at all given times, regardless of where we are. And the beautiful thing about Class Notebook, it is broken down into student notebooks. So you'll notice that we've got all of these students here with their various notebooks. So Ella, Eldon, and so on and so forth here have their own notebooks. But we also have a content library where it's a read-only space where teachers can create handouts and really create content that is going to be read by these students so that the students can't really change the content. The other thing is we also enable this collaboration space where you can bring content and share with your students, and students can also contribute towards that content and learn from each other. So as I was talking to you about previously, we want to change the paradigm from individual learning to more collaborative learning. And this is an example of how we are enabling that. And of course, as I said before, Class Notebook enables this to be available both online and offline. So any changes that are made will be synchronized with each other when you get back online. So here are examples of how, customers have used Class Notebook. Other examples of how we are enabling experiences for education, specifically around the area of managing assignments. We have created a lightweight assignment management tool within Teams where we can either create assignments, quizzes, or leverage existing assignments as templates for us to leverage and use and use it on a recurring basis, right? So as an example, to create an assignment, we would just go and create the assignments. We'd be able to fill out the details, add resources to the assignment, add rubrics to the assignment, and so on and so forth. And push those assignments on a particular date, put the due date on that, and so on and so forth. So there can be a notification that keeps going on about this. And by the way, these assignments will also synchronize into the students' and teachers' calendars, so everyone is notified of when the assignments are due. So if you look at my assignments view here, you'll be able to see all the assignments that have been due for me in the past or are upcoming as well. So it's a great way to kind of give you a means to manage your assignments. And once you're managing assignments, some of the assignments will be graded. So we now also have the ability for you to grade your assignments and see what's going on and how people are collaborating and creating content. And you can obviously grade them. And this can be exported to Excel so that it can be imported into your grade tool if you have one. We're not limited to any particular technologies either in terms of integration. If you already have investment in other platforms, we can still take advantage of that. Obviously, there is the ability for you to also integrate Word documents directly in here or any other. So we can even add many other things into the Teams itself. So if I wanted to, for example, bring in a video from YouTube, I could easily do that. If I wanted to add a content from another website, I could easily do that. So for example, we can just see, hey, look, let's do a search for Microsoft Education. And I really want you to be familiar with that. So I can bring that and put that as a resource within the team, which is an example of how we can put all the resources into one place and the team starts to become more of the digital hub. Then the other exciting thing that we've enabled now is Insights. And Insights has been very valuable for us to provide you with the insights of how your schools are leveraging the team's infrastructure or the platform that you're going to make available to them. So we want to be able to give you a visibility into the digital activity for individual students, the impact of their activity to their grades. So we can even look at their grades, look at their on-time assignments, whether they have provided that or not, things like that. Again, there are some demos on this available on our Microsoft platform that will give you a better understanding of this. But in today's session, I just want to make you aware of what's possible. So let's kind of go back to the conversation here about, so now that I've given you a bit of an overview of Teams, there are certain things that we've done to make the immersion possible and the inclusion possible. As I said to you in the PowerPoint, we're going to focus a lot more on the immersive side of things and inclusion side of things. And to keep this webinar in time today, I just wanted to give you some, links to some demos that give you an understanding of what that means. So here's an example. We've got the ability for Immersive Reader, and that's a key underlying technology that enables this inclusion to happen. Because fundamentally, to participate in the digital learning experience, we need to read a lot on screen and things like that. And sometimes it can be difficult for us to do that. And to enable that in a better way, I just want to give you a quick demo of Immersive Reader, which is part of the Microsoft Learning Tools. I'll just quickly get into a demo for you here. So here we have Immersive Reader that's taking content and making it much more readable by giving us the ability to change the size of the text. So if I need more help looking at the text, or from a visual aid perspective, if I need more spacing, I can create more spacing. I can change some of the fonts, and these fonts have been chosen by us through research and feedback from folks who are experts in the field of helping folks with visual disabilities. So for example, we might need high contrast or a black background. The black background is one of my favorites. Obviously we can have more colors here if that's what meets your requirements. We're able to also not just look at the content, but also be able to understand the content better by breaking it down into syllables, or highlighting the nouns, the verbs, the adjectives, adverbs. We can even show the labels as to what's the actual verbs. And this goes beyond just, the reading capability, but also focusing on the reading. So we can focus those who need support with the focus on the reading to go down to a line level. We've also put in the ability for you to get picture dictionary. For example, if you click on the word tools, you'll see that it's trying to explain through the pictures and a visual guide to understanding what that word actually means, right? What it means to create. So these are things that we really want to enable that change the classroom conversation. And of course, from a inclusion perspective, if there are folks who are not comfortable with the language and need support with that and want to be able to translate the entire document, we can do so as well. So here we've just used artificial intelligence to go in and translate this for us. Not only that, we can also get it to read it for us. So I'll just start off here. This actually gives us the ability to learn the language by saying, so understanding the word, how it's pronounced in a particular language, and see the translation. So it gives us the ability to learn language as well. And of course, it helps us read along as well.
Learning Tools Immersive Reader creates a reading experience that adds accessibility and comprehension for learners of all ages and abilities. The menu in the upper right corner of this screen allows you to change the appearance of your reading material or hear your text read out loud. Explore the tools. Press play at the bottom of the screen to listen to this text.
So you get the idea here that we can change the way we are, getting people to learn by actually changing the way that they read. And that's a very powerful experience. And we've seen, and in the document that you will receive as part of this presentation, you will understand that we've had a real impact to the learning for folks with different learning requirements, accessibility requirements, from dyslexia, dysgraphia to low vision, hearing. So if folks who need the need for you to support their hearing needs, or mobility and neurodiversity. So there's support for really all sorts of capabilities here. So I just showed you some of the classroom experiences from the reading perspective. We extend this into writing, math, and communication. So I'll show you some examples of this. So back to our teams here. For example, if somebody was to come to this chat and really needed to understand the content a little bit more, we've actually now leveraged the same immersive technology and embedded it right into Teams. So as an example, I could actually go in here and get Immersive Reader to help me understand the content of this particular text. Or if I needed it to be translated, I could do that as well. So I could translate that as needed if it was coming in a different language. So as time goes on, this capabilities of leveraging Immersive Reader is becoming more and more ubiquitous. I'll give you one more example of this. We have this math demo in OneNote, where you'll actually see when I highlight a particular piece of math that I've handwritten, I do have access to a ink-enabled device, and I strongly encourage you to look at getting an ink-enabled device, because it not only it helps students express their thoughts, but also lets us use the device in the context of subjects like maths and others, right? So we need to be very cognizant of our requirements for different subjects. So here for maths, if I right-click this, go into math, it actually translates the content which is in my ink to something that's more machine readable, and it converts it for what we call ink to math. And once we've got ink to math, because this is leveraging artificial intelligence, we can also now help you solve for X and Y in this case, and see the different steps and different methods for getting to the same process. And what we're also now enabling is, from a math inclusion perspective, we've enabled Immersive Reader to be able to read math as well. So if I click on this icon, and you should get familiar with this icon, which is Immersive Reader icon, it lets us now start reading math. So even if somebody is not comfortable with the language of maths, we are enabling that as well. So you'll see this same thing that happened before, and I'll just give you an example of this. Let's start reading here.
In the other equation, open brace x plus y equals 3, x minus y equals 1 close brace. Choose one of the equations.
So it now gives you the ability to read math as well. So it really is a very powerful tool. Of course, this is changing the way people are now leveraging tools in the context of their classroom, but also is enabling new ways for us to also create content. So for example, if I'm a student and I'm having difficulties understanding this, or if you're a teacher who wants to generate practice exams on similar kind of math problems, we've now also included the generate a practice quiz experience right within the, so it creates a form which allows you to have quizzes. So Forms is a great way for you to do that. And Forms is a tool that's available as part of Microsoft 365. What you'll notice here is that it's created a questionnaire or a quiz which leverages similar questions as to what we fed it in the first place. So it's a great example of how artificial intelligence is saving us time when it comes to creating content and leveraging it to create even quizzes for us. So back to that whole message about technology changing the classroom experience that enables you to create content in a more immersive way. I hope I'm giving you some ideas through this webinar for this, the content creation. Another example of this is in PowerPoint. And this is I've just started PowerPoint with the word cloud in it on a page, which is just, but we've now enabled a artificial intelligence tool to help us design better, more immersive content. And that's called Designer. When you click on Designer, you'll see here that it's automatically figured out based on the content here, which is clouds, as to what that content should look like. and it immediately starts formatting it. So we don't need to spend time in going around and formatting the actual content. We can rather focus our time in the actual content itself. And you will even see, for example, not only does it add pretty pictures, but also can add videos, as you'll see in this particular example, right? And this is dynamic. So if I was to revert back to the and change the content of this to say planes, right? It's now going to look at the content and change that as well, right? So I can immediately create a more immersive experience around that, around the word planes, and now we start creating, and it starts formatting the document for you as well. So it gives you hints as to how you could format this better to make it more immersive as well. So these are examples of how the content is really being changed. And of course, when we are creating content, we also want to make sure that it is accessible. So the other thing to kind of be very cognizant of, I don't know if you have done this, but we can also check for accessibility in all of our tools. So make sure that, before you finalize your document, you check for accessibility, and it gives you hints on what needs to change in this document to make it more accessible, right? And tells you what and gives you hints as to what you can add to this document to make it more accessible. So if it was given to a person with accessibility needs and wants to leverage your content, it is available for you. And of course, the other thing here is, once we've created our content, we want to be able to present our content very effectively. And we now need to also, to help you improve your delivery, for example, of this content, we can actually rehearse with a coach. So PowerPoint no longer is just a content creation tool, but can also help you deliver the content in a more effective manner. And we can do that through rehearsal using a coach. So when I click on this button, rehearse with coach, it will start a experience where the coach will come in, and this is right now in preview, but it will help us, prepare better and provide us feedback on the presentation skills. So you'll see an example of this right now, and I've taken real-time feedback. So you'll see I'll purposely make some mistakes and some known kind of challenges with presentation skills. So I'll just do that for you. So here we are. We're back to our first slide about and my name is Amit, and this is me. As you can see here, it's already gone in and said I'm using filler words like and I mean, right? It's encouraging me to stop using those words. So it wants me to start actually, not be monotonous either. So you'll notice that even when I speak in a monotonous way, it will also give me a hint. It will give me a hint to be not so monotonous. Or if I start reading the content on the screen itself. So let's do that. Rise to the challenge in supporting educators and staff to become change makers and create a new learning experience that is accessible for learners. There it is. It's already told me, try not to avoid reading the slides, summarize the key points. So it's giving me hints on this. So this is examples of how we need to, and this also encourages our students to see how they are doing. And at the end of the coaching process, it gives us feedback as to how much time I spent, how many slides I did, what kind of originality I had in terms of actually, going and saying the right things, or rather just reading what's on the screen. The pace at which I'm doing this, I happen to be doing pretty okay with that. It gives me feedback on my variance in terms of my speed, my pitch. It could be better. I need to be improving my pitch. I was trying to make that again. And the filler words, I mean, and so on and so forth. And it also can help you with sensitive phrases. And, you can look this up more in terms of what, and this will get better and better as time goes on, as we enhance and learn from the coaching experiences that customers are using. Of course, to also, make this possible for us to have inclusion for other folks, we can of course leverage the content and translate the content that I'm presenting in real time. So let's see that experience in work. I don't speak Filipino, but here it is. It's now going to start leveraging artificial intelligence to convert what I'm saying from English into something that I'm hoping you as native Filipino language speakers and readers can actually make sense of what has been written in the subtitles below. So again, I want to thank you for joining me in today's webinar, where we are helping transform education for all Filipinos through this virtual summit. So there's an example of another way for us to create more inclusion for students and educators. So I hope I've given you a lot of ideas, and in this deck, later on in this content deck that I've put together resources for you to go and learn both about reading and writing. So there's the Immersive Reader content, and of course, Immersive Reader is not just for Microsoft products. It's going to be integrated into multiple products. Like here's an example for Canvas, who's leveraged Immersive Reader in their tools. And there are many, many more who are joining this as well. So we're really encouraged by the partner ecosystem that's taking advantage of our platform. Yes, one more thing before I forget, Edge browser now has Immersive Reader built in. And if you're not familiar with Edge browser, I strongly encourage you to learn about this as well, to go and use this with, so for example, if you're using BBC Food, or I'm just going to go and look at a recipe for something, and let's see if I can get this into Immersive Reader for us to actually experience Immersive Reader in the context of a website. So I'm going to go to bbc.com and look for something that I can actually show you. Suffering here. Let me get this demo right. This is what happens when you do demos in real time. Oh, sorry, I could easily show you that because we do have the read aloud function.
Village underwater since 1994 could resurface. Published June 4th.
So there's an example of how Immersive Reader works on any page through your browser as well. I encourage you strongly to go to microsoft.com/edge and download the new Edge browser. Yes, you may be using another browser, but today I want to encourage you to look at Microsoft Edge, which is now built on the Chromium backend. So you get all of the productivity, performance, the privacy control that you have now come to expect from a modern browser. So really strongly encourage you to have that experience. Some of the other things that are really near and dear to me is that ability for me to also have multiple profiles. So in this case, you can see that I have my work profile and my personal profile. And when I switch between different profiles, I can get access to different experiences in different websites as well. So just a quick little plug for Edge as I'm talking about Immersive Reader in the context of your browsing experience. We've also got the Office Lens application, which lets you take a video a photo of a book or content, and then we've integrated. There you go.
Would not take the garbage out.
So you can see how Immersive Reader has captured the photo using the camera of your phone, and then has brought that in using OCR and artificial intelligence to then enable us to use Immersive Reader with that content. So really,
take the garbage out.
Sorry. So what you see is we've now also extended Immersive Reader to forms. So you can read forms. So for folks who need to fill out forms and need to understand that better, we've made that possible as well, even from the questionnaire perspective as to what the options are, things like that. So Immersive Reader is becoming more and more ubiquitous, and there is a learning experience for you on this website, which is akams.allaboutImmersive-reader. When I click on that, it will take us to the Educator Center. And if you're not already a member of the Educator Center, I strongly encourage you to go and sign up. It's free for you to sign up. You can earn all sorts of badges and things to show off to your colleagues, and also to have a conversation with others to go and learn about these technologies that we've been talking about through this and many other webinars that Microsoft conducts. So if you wanted to know more about all the things that I've discussed in this demos, in this webinar today, you can find out more about that there. the other thing is we've focused a lot on the reading side of things, but also there is the ability for us to use, the technology to help write things. So let me just give you a quick demo here. So we've seen examples from our teachers who are telling us that we need to help them write better. So here's an example of a child who's challenged from writing ability of their to express themselves through a written language. But what we did was we put them in front of the same child in front of a computer where they could actually dictate rather than even type. And I'm going to quickly show you a demo of this. So Word, for example, has the ability for you to dictate. So let's actually see how we can do that. Here I am. My name is Amit. I'm giving you a demo of the dictation capabilities of Microsoft Word. Full stop. I am able to leverage artificial intelligence and my voice to create a document and express myself in a written language. And there we go. We've now been able to create a document quite easily using artificial intelligence and speech. The other thing we can do is, from a written perspective, we can also go and use Editor, which is now a new capability in Word, to help us, improve not just spelling, grammar, but also refinements in terms of clarity and formality. So it would go in and say, instead of using I am, I should use I am, right? For example, or it can put in a full stop at the end and things like that. So there is a lot of artificial intelligence that create a more inclusive and immersive experience for you and for your for your students as well. I really want to thank you for joining me today. I'm not going to go through all of the decks today, but I just want to make sure that you have access to all of the resources that are available through this, through our various online resources. I really am encouraged by all the work you guys are doing, and I want to thank you for joining me today in terms of learning about how we can create a modern classroom that enables more inclusive and learning environment for our students. And by the way, this is not just limited to the modern classroom that we've been talking about. There is more to the Microsoft Education platform than what we've just talked about today. We've just touched the modern classroom conversation today. There is much more around, once we enable the modern classroom, how education analytics can lead us to having more of a conversation around student success. How do we secure the campus and get more future-ready environments that enable us to create more future-ready students. So thank you. I encourage you to learn more about this from the links that are provided in this document.